Hello, I'm Lara Kulcharsan and this is Newsfeed, your dose of what people are talking about online. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says he hopes to sit down with US President Donald Trump in the coming days to talk through a US-backed peace plan that many say rewards Russia for invading Ukraine. The 28-point proposal was reportedly drafted without Ukrainian or EU involvement, and the concessions are huge.
This is what Russia would get. Okay? First, Ukraine would cede territory currently occupied by Russia. All the land. Ukraine would give up certain weapon systems because Russia, they want security guarantees, even though they're the ones who invaded Ukraine. Then, the size of the Ukrainian military would have to be reduced because Russia is worried about Ukraine, and then there'd be security structures for European eastern flank which would be rewritten. What does Ukraine get out of all this? Doesn't seem like anything except for just an end to the war, which is a war that Russia started, and they should be punished for what they've done, but it doesn't stop there. This would stipulate that Russian be recognized as an official state language in Ukraine and grant official status to the local branch of the Russian Orthodox Church, provisions echoing long-standing Kremlin political objectives.
The development comes as allegations that Moscow is recruiting teens on social media, some as young as 9, to carry out sabotage at home. Ukraine's security service, the SBU, says more than 800 Ukrainians have been recruited online in the past 2 years. 240 of them are minors. Officials say the recruitment happens mostly on Telegram, but also on TikTok and even video game platforms. They are being asked to make small explosives, plant bombs, set fire to buildings, scout targets, and photograph sites.
If you were a teenager, could you have been manipulated by an intelligence service? Russian intelligence services targeted teenagers who were below the ages of 15 and 18 through online communities, and here's what they were looking for. They wanted them to be financially vulnerable and alone, so specifically single-parent households and orphans. This is a heartbreaking evolution in fifth-generation warfare because it targets the youth. Moreover, it uses broken families and impoverishment as a way of gaining access. They were paid $100 to $1,000 to do everything from scouting infrastructure to even planting explosive devices.
There are even price lists posted on these Telegram channels showing payouts ranging from $1,500 to burn a post office to $3,000 to attack a bank. Hundreds of alleged saboteurs in Ukraine are now awaiting trial, while several suspects have been killed by the explosives they were carrying. And there are also claims that some acts of sabotage inside Russia may be tied to Ukrainian-linked recruitment on Telegram. Trump has signed the bill approving the release of the Epstein files. The Justice Department now has 30 days to make the documents public. Meanwhile, an exchange between a female reporter and the president is going viral.
Is there something incriminating in the files, sir?
Days before his U-turn on the Epstein files, Trump was caught on camera calling Bloomberg correspondent Catherine Lucy piggy. That's after she pressed him about emails the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein wrote, mentioning the president. The White House defended the moment, saying the reporter had acted inappropriately and that the president was just being frank and honest. The clip barely caused a ripple when it happened, but it took off online 4 days after. As digital strategist Parker Butler says, a viral post can shape an entire news cycle. The internet had a lot to say. Some questioned, if the president speaks to a woman like that on camera, what's happening behind closed doors? Others pointed out the timing, as Trump has been under a lot of pressure lately.
Quiet piggy. That is how he talks to women publicly. Publicly talks to women like that. How do you think he talks to them privately?
I have to live in a timeline, right, where the President of the United States calls a reporter piggy, and there's no repercussions of this, right? I don't think anyone in 2025 should be talking about women's bodies at all.
Kudos to that reporter. The jig is up. He's losing it. He's losing it. And what was she questioning about? The Epstein files.
Oh, Donald Trump has been in a panic and very short-tempered, more than usual, because the files are going to be released. That appears to be imminent, because he knows inevitably there is nothing he can do. There's nothing he can stop it, and he can't distract us from it with the economy, because the economy is falling apart. Everything around Trump is crumbling, and he is not happy.
Just 4 days later, on November 18th, Trump snapped at another female reporter after she pressed him on the Epstein files again.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. You're going to psych. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter.
Bangladesh's toppling of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was a spectacular show of the power of young people and their courage to effect change. 1,400 people paid with their lives and 2,500 were injured. Now, the youth hope their peers will usher in a new chapter in Bangladeshi politics, where there is more transparency and less corruption. Newsweek spoke to one of the protesters, Samia Akhtar.
The young leaders see this verdict as an important step towards accountability after the violence we faced during the last year's movement. Many of us lost friends, faced bullets, lived through a threat of being targeted for speaking up. But now our hope goes beyond punishing one leader. We want reforms that ensure no government, not this one or the next, can ever weaponize the state against its own people, own citizen again. Cause we believe justice is not about only the past, it's all about building safeguard for the futures. Ahead of the election, young people want a clear break from personality-based politics. With the elections coming up, the youth demand leadership that prioritizes transparency, rule of law, freedom of expression, and economic opportunity. However, despite their central role in the movement, young voices remain underrepresented in the formal political process. If Bangladesh wants a new era, youth voices cannot be treated as symbolic, but they have to be embedded into political processes. Under the interim government, there is certainly less fear and more openness in everyday life, but the deeper system, policing, bureaucracy, and political culture remain largely unchanged. So, deeper reforms need to happen for real change to take root. Yes, things are changing, and young people are ready to take this change further. So the atmosphere suggests the beginning of a new chapter. Young people remain cautiously optimistic, whether this moment lead to genuine long-term transformation.
Asia's two largest economies take shots at each other, with new warnings to citizens, suspended film screenings, and travel cancellations. It all started with Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's comments on Taiwan earlier this month. She said a hypothetical Chinese attack on Taiwan would threaten Japan's survival and could trigger military action. In response, China called on its citizens to cancel trips to Japan and post screenings of new Japanese movies. Japan then warned its citizens in China to avoid crowded places.
Japan risking its own economic survival. So just within 3 days, 500,000 flights between China and Japan were cancelled, which is the largest wave since COVID. And Japan's business leaders immediately panicked. Why? Because its three core industries, autos, semiconductors, and machine tools, all depend on China. So first, autos. China is Japan's #1 export market. Over 30% of Japan's car export into China. Number two, semiconductor. 42% of Japan's semiconductor equipment export to China. Cut off China, and Japan loses its biggest customer overnight. Number three, machine tools. China has been Japan's top overseas market for 15 years straight, making up over a quarter of external demand. So slowdowns in China equals empty order books in Japan. And that's just industry. The dependency runs deeper. China is Japan's largest trading partner in 2024 trade. Plus, over 13,000 Japanese companies operating in China, and more than half say that China remains one of the most important markets. So when Japan chooses confrontation, it's not symbolic, it's economic self-harm.
The tension makes sense when you look at the history of Taiwan. China claims Taiwan as its own and has not ruled out using force to take the island. Taipei rejects that. Japan has no official diplomatic ties with Taiwan and doesn't even recognize it as a country. Then why are Japan and China bickering over the island?
The Qing dynasty governed Taiwan until 1895. Following its defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War, China ceded control of the island to Japan, which ruled Taiwan for 50 years. In 1945, after World War II, Japan returned Taiwan to China, marking the beginning of a new post-war era. From 1931 to 1945, Japan occupied various regions of China, starting with Manchuria and expanding its reach during the Second Sino-Japanese War. This period was marked by major atrocities, including the Nanjing Massacre, forced labor, and widespread killings. These historical events continue to shape public opinion in China and fuel tensions with Japan today.
So when Takaichi said Japan could become militarily involved in a possible conflict between China and Taiwan, it immediately set off alarm bells in China. Beijing sees it as undermining the post-war order. That's the one built on Tokyo giving up militarism and returning Taiwan to China. Experts say the remark revised Japan's 50-year rule over Taiwan and its wartime aggression in China. It stirs fears of a drift back to a pre-war mindset. It's just days before Australia imposes a ban on social media use for under 16s. It's aimed at letting kids be kids and designed to protect them from harmful content online. Restrictions come into effect on December 8th. Meta is the first company to start informing users that Facebook, Insta, and Threads accounts will be shut down. The ban also applies to other platforms like Reddit, X, TikTok, and YouTube. Failing to comply will result in hefty fines. While Meta will oblige, it says its teen safety features, which allows for parental supervision, is a better alternative to a ban. For young people, social media is more than a form of entertainment. It's become a platform for communication and even a tool to run businesses.
Mental health matters, protecting kids online matters. There is a lot of stuff online that's not made for young people. And doom scrolling can definitely mess with your head. But it feels like the government is trying to take down the messenger, not the source. They're not banning adult sites, but they're banning social media. Social media is actually where most of us can connect, learn, and build communities. For me, it's literally how I'm building my business. It's where I've met other young founders, shared ideas, and created a little community. So if the concern is social media can sometimes be a gateway to harmful or adult content, why not target the harmful content itself instead of the platforms that just host the conversation? I'm all for keeping kids safe online. I just think banning social media just misses the point.
And that's our show. Find our latest stuff on YouTube and do subscribe to our channel. See you soon.